Before there were churches, before there were temples, before there were pews or pulpits or Sunday morning parking lots, ancient humans were already doing something every single week that looked remarkably like worship, and nobody taught them to. Here is what archaeologists have actually found. Roughly 11,500 years ago, in what is now Turkey, a group of nomadic hunter-gatherers built a massive stone monument called Göbekli Tepe. No permanent village, no agriculture yet, no written language. They had not figured out how to settle in one place and grow food, but they had already figured out how to build a sacred gathering space. They built the temple before they built the home. The impulse to create a place where the community could meet something greater than themselves came before every other instinct of civilization. Think about that for a second. The first thing humans decided to build together was not shelter, it was a sanctuary. Go back even further. 40,000 years ago, ancient humans were crawling deep inside caves, not to sleep, not to hide from predators, but to make art on the walls in the dark. Lascaux, Altamira, hundreds of sites across the world. They carried torches into the deepest chambers they could find and painted animals, handprints, and shapes on surfaces nobody would see again for thousands of years. They were not decorating, they were marking sacred space. They were doing something in the dark that required effort, intention, and reverence. They were going to church, they just called it a cave. And the fire. Every ancient human community across every continent organized its social and spiritual life around a communal fire, not just for warmth, for gathering. The fire was where the elders spoke and the community listened. It was where the dead were honored, where the stories were told, where the rituals happened. The entire community oriented itself around a single central light source in the darkness and reached towards something they could feel but not fully name. Sound familiar? Here is what modern neuroscience adds to this. The default mode network, the part of your brain that activates when you stop focusing on external tasks and turn inward, lights up during prayer, during stillness, during moments of perceived transcendence. This network is not a recent development, it is ancient architecture. It was operating in the brains of the humans painting cave walls and sitting around fires and building stone circles at dawn. The hunger to connect with something beyond the visible world is not a cultural habit you picked up. It is structural. It is in the hardware. God did not add the instinct for worship recently. He built it in from the beginning. So what did ancient humans do instead of going to church? They gathered around fire in the dark and told the stories that held their community together. They built sacred spaces before they built anything else. They honored their dead with flowers and pigment and ceremony. They danced and sang as a group to reach towards something their individual bodies could not reach alone. They sat in silence before the rising sun and let the scale of it hit them. They pressed their hands against the wall in the dark and said, "I was here. I existed. Something should know that I existed." Every single one of those instincts is still in you. The problem is not that modern Christians lost the desire for worship. The problem is that we have made worship so comfortable, so managed, so scheduled and air-conditioned and optimized that it no longer costs anything. And ancient humans understood without anyone telling them that the things worth reaching for require something from you. You do not build Göbekli Tepe by accident. You do not crawl to the back of a cave with a torch because it is convenient. You do it because something in you insists that it matters enough to be hard.
The oldest human behavior we have archaeological evidence of is not hunting, it is not farming, it is not building shelter, it is reaching toward God. And you were built to do the same thing, not because your church told you to, because something in the deepest part of your design has been doing it for 40,000 years before your church existed. The question is not whether you were made for worship. You were. The question is whether you will take it so seriously as the people who did it in the dark with nothing but a torch